one of the things that really allows me to be so blessed as a director is that my students go from a school day where they are asked to think and to analyze. So when they come to me, they're already prepped for it. They want to achieve excellence. I really believe that with all my heart. I mean, this group of kids, they want to aspire to greatness. And if they weren't coming out of a classroom or coming out of a day that was creating a foundation for that, I wouldn't have it when I see them. They're also really great at memorizing their lines. I do have a requirement with all my students that before we block a scene, they have to have all the lines memorized, because we talk about how you can't develop a character if your nose is in a book. And this is my 5th year directing at St. Ambrose, and I've never had students not meet that expectation. And so I feel like this school does a wonderful job giving me students that are ready to work hard, to give it their all, and that are ready to learn how to be good to each other too. So it's just so beautiful when I can see them sharing their hearts and then seeing their friends nearby not just pray, but say, "How's your grandpa doing? And how are you doing?" And that's what we want. That's how we create a sense of family in the rehearsal process. One of the things that we try to do is think about what in this show is a little bit of a story about us as Catholics. And I could see that we were going to have a story that we could take to the stage with a mission in mind. And Frank Baum is a really wonderful man. His whole mission, he felt like his whole mission as an author should be to delight and to please children. And one of the things that I learned about him that I loved right away was that he decided that he wanted to create a new kind of fairy tale. And the reason why he wanted to create a new kind of fairy tale was because he looked at these fairy tales that existed, a lot of European, the older fairy tales, and there's always romance involved. And what he said was, you know what? Romance is really developmentally inappropriate for young children. And so I want to write stories, fairy tales for children that don't involve romance, because it's not something that they're experiencing in their life right now. And I also want to write a story that takes out a lot of the kind of gore and gruesome stuff that was a part of fairy tales of old. So how does that connect to our Catholic faith? I feel like Jesus, when he was here on earth with us, he used stories that we could relate to lift us up and to remind us that the most important thing that we are called to do is love. There are people that they don't like The Wizard of Oz because there are scary moments in it. But here's another thing. In our life, there's good and there's evil. And if we believe in God and we believe in Satan, we know that there's this constant fight for us, for our souls. And so it's very interesting to me because Dorothy, being the child, and the vulnerability that she has, the doubts that she has, she thinks no one loves her. Well, oh my goodness, that's like a great playground for Satan, right? Oh, of course nobody loves you. Of course nobody cares about you, right? It's a perfect opportunity for Satan to sort of capitalize on fear. This musical is also about overcoming fear in many different ways. I think for us and our cast, because we do know that God exists and we do know that Satan exists, when we look at these scenes where Dorothy is facing the witch, we look at that as a moment where Dorothy, like all of us, faces real evil. It could be temptation to sin. It can just be fear. Are we remembering that when we fear most and when we doubt the most, are we remembering to ask God for help? I'm going to challenge all of you to notice which character in the show understands intelligent design first. There's one character in the show that recognizes help, recognizes that it can and will be answered by a higher power. To us, that's God. And so we have in our version of Wizard of Oz, in our mission-based story, our Glinda is very much allegorical to us. We've talked a lot about The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And for us, in our story, Glinda is that savior figure. She's the one that is just waiting for you to call. She's waiting for you to call upon her because she will help you. All you have to do is ask. And so there it is again. There's another message that we can send in a very simple, sweet story. The entire cast hopes that the audience will identify with the orphan in our story. All the best stories are told about orphans. There's something sort of universal about this feeling of loneliness, that I'm not loved, that I'm not smart enough, I'm not beautiful enough, I'm not strong enough. We do that a lot to ourselves. We all need to know that there's somebody that loves us enough that they would die for us, and especially children. And I've said this to my cast, I'm like, there's research that's been done out there about kids that have gone through terrible crisis. And those kids, they're able to rise above it if there's just one person that they know without a doubt would lay down their life for them. And isn't that an interesting parallel? Because here it is in this story with a Dorothy who thinks nobody really loves her. And by the end, she realizes that she has 3 friends that would die for her. And we hope that they'll also see the significance in the yellow brick road. There's a yellow brick road throughout this story. And when the 4 main characters get on that yellow brick road, it's like they are able to begin to see themselves as their designer created them to be. God has prepared a yellow brick road for all of us. He has a will for our lives. And when we stay close to Him and near to Him, He helps us solve all of our problems. We also want audiences to be able to, maybe at the end of the show, just like Dorothy, look back and think, I have a really great life. God has given me so many things to be grateful for. And maybe I just needed to be away from them for just a little while, or I needed to experience the absence of their presence to really realize all the gifts that I've been given.